After the tragic death in 1997 of the brilliant Italian fashion designer Gianni Versace, who founded the Versace haute couture empire, his niece Allegra Versace became the main shareholder of the successful company according to the will of the couturier. The girl was only 11 years old at the time, and before she came of age, her mother, Donatella Versace, took over the management of the business. In the summer of 2004, the multimillion-dollar heiress Allegra Versace turned 18 years old, and she became the rightful mistress of the huge Versace fashion industry. However, instead of living to the fullest, enjoying wealth and freedom, Allegra, on the contrary, increasingly turned into a recluse, turning away from people and all possible pleasures of life, preferring a quiet home pastime. The famous couturier Gianni Versace did not hide his homosexual orientation. One of his first sexual partners was a young, incredibly handsome American mannequin, Paul Beck, who came to the casting at the Versace fashion house. Their relationship seemed quite happy to others. Paul and Gianni were everywhere together, vacationing in expensive restaurants, traveling a lot, having fun in nightclubs. Versace spared no expense on a young lover. Paul Beck, however, turned out to be on his mind. He drew attention to the fashion designer's sister, Donatella Versace, by officially proposing marriage to her. The head of the fashion empire, Gianni Versace, was grievously worried about his partner's betrayal. He did not communicate with his former lover and sister for a whole year. Everything was changed by the birth of a daughter for a young couple. Gianni Versace never had any children of his own, only 3 nephews. His favorite was Allegra Versace, who actually replaced his own daughter, whom he called "my little princess." In all the photos, the famous uncle is always hugging Allegra, who clings to him trustfully. It is noticeable that the girl loved Gianni Versace very much, no less than her own father. Paul and Donatella's marriage lasted 17 years, followed by divorce. Allegra herself prefers to be represented everywhere by her father's surname, Beck, trying to emphasize her individual importance and independence from the obligations of the famous family that prevail over her. To experience the death of a beloved uncle at the age of 11, and the rumors surrounding his murder about the involvement of brother Santo and sister Donatella in the murder, is the strongest nervous shock for any adult, and even more so for a child. Childhood trauma deeply affected Allegra's later life, who became afraid of people and public attention, which increased dramatically after she was declared the heir to a $700 million business. Her psyche could not withstand a serious test. The girl stopped eating, she developed anorexia, from which she almost died, and severe depression. Her weight decreased to 38 kilograms in 2007. She was constantly treated for exhaustion and fed through tubes. Donatella Versace's mother was forced to officially admit her daughter's terrible diagnosis through the press. Allegra Versace never managed to grow up, although she turned 35 at the end of June 2021. She is terrified of the press, her photos in newspapers, or TV spots on television. An adult girl is completely insecure and defenseless, despite the wealth she has inherited. She hides from the public, preferring to spend time at home and watch TV. She has dual citizenship. In Italy and the USA, she lives in a family mansion in Milan, then in an apartment in New York. She is never seen in the company of young people. No one knows if she has a friend. She avoids any scandals in every possible way, appearing at events only surrounded by her relatives. In the office of the company she is actually supposed to run, Allegra Versace appears no more than 1 to 2 times a month, showing no interest in continuing the family business. Gianni Versace was seriously engaged in the upbringing of his niece, her cultural development and leisure. He introduced her to the best museums in the world, works of art, and spared no money on the best teachers. Allegra was seriously interested in art history, French, and graduated from the prestigious University of California. Among Allegra's hobbies, acting classes in a small theater are also noticed. But the famous uncle Gianni Versace predetermined the fate of his little princess, firmly linking her with the world of high fashion. It turned out to be quite a heavy burden for the niece of the couturier, who did not dare to take responsible steps to continue her uncle's business. Her mother, Donatella Versace, who actually manages the legacy of the great maestro, is clearly overdoing it in protecting her daughter. She doesn't even let her drive a car on her own. Excessive maternal care does not allow her daughter to grow up. At the same time, her mother's addiction to cocaine may be another additional cause for concern for Allegra Versace. After all, only on her daughter's 18th birthday, at the insistence of British singer Elton John, Donatella Versace agreed to undergo rehabilitation at a drug treatment clinic in Arizona. So the Versace family, in which the millionaire Allegra lives, intimidated by life, is clearly not the calm home stronghold where you can find understanding, support, and gain confidence in the future. How do you think the famous mom influenced Allegra's lifestyle?